I can hear myself now. That's good. Thank you, everybody, for coming in and spending some time with us. We're going to spend some time around AI-driven adaptive engineering for all your cloud workloads. Now, I'm Prem. I'm the CTO for Hitachi Digital Services. And one of the core competencies of ours is applying AI to support cloud workloads, especially running on AWS. And with that, I would like to introduce Michael, who is from Raiffeisen Bank. Miguel, Andrea, who's our partner from AWS, and Marek, who's one among you, and he's been the biggest sponsor and supporter of us when we did this complete migration with RBI. Now with that, let's step into the topic of cloud workload management. Now, it doesn't have to be so complex, but it is, as all of us know, and the complexity keeps increasing with more clouds that keeps growing, right? There is hybrid cloud. You've got on-prem footprint. You've got footprint in AWS. And in some cases, it's exacerbated by a multi-cloud scenario where you even have workloads running on different clouds and communicating with each other. Now, managing this has become a nightmare for many organizations. And today we will talk about some of the experiences that we have from one of our customers, as well as how AWS is supporting. But before that, our point of view on this has always been, hey, IT ops, as it stands today, need to evolve into an engineering-led operations. And the fundamental premise behind that is cloud is not just infrastructure as it's been seen by many folks. Cloud is code. When you think about cloud, it's codified infrastructure that's available and that's accessible, leveraging engineering. Your operations should try and tap into that potential. Your applications should try and tap into that potential. So when we think about cloud operations, we think about it as an engineering-led function that naturally flows from migration, modernization, and to management of cloud workloads. Now, what does it really take to do this? There's a bunch of things, but we start with what's called as latest technology, because today, technology empowers a lot of things that we could do. And we will talk a bit about how Raiffeisen is thinking, applying AI to continue to manage this, how AWS is thinking about applying AI to support managed workloads, so on and so forth. But then, that's around the latest technology. There is a need for planning and preparation. So it's obvious that the days where people just lifted and shifted workloads and they thought they were on the cloud and they were exiting data centers is over. All of us here understand just a mere lift and shift doesn't work, and you need to plan, you need to design, you need to gather insights from the data that you have, and you need the skills and expertise to go through this. I'll skip this slide, this is standard, but any modern operating model, which is cloud-based application development, DevOps, needs a modern operating model to manage reliability, security, compliance, and all the more the cost of cloud, because it's just not the cloud that's costly, it's the entire process of moving to the cloud and then running it that is costly. With that, I will invite Michael. Hey, hi, Michael. Can you share a little bit about your cloud journey? I know you guys have been going through this for a couple of years, and we've been fortunate to partner with you. But can you share some thoughts on your journey with all of us?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I hope you can hear me okay. Before I share the journey, I think I need to start with the goal that we had in mind, because it's very much impacting how we design the transformation to achieve the goals. So roughly 2 years ago, we designed the IT strategy, which stipulated two things from the cloud perspective: that we need to do cloud at the big scale, meaning we needed to get to 50% of our applications going to the cloud in 2 years. So we had to come up with a model and the transformation in which we can achieve that. Generally, on the high level, we defined the transformation running across 10 markets and divided into two high-level phases. First phase being an assessment, and the second one being the actual migration. Both phases, they have set of tools, set of processes, set of standards that we build in so that we can be able to run it at the scale we are in on multiple markets. In the first phase, being the assessment, we're selecting the applications on each and every market that were best supporting the local priorities, local goals. Once we have selected the application, we're designing the applications for the cloud and drawing their way to the cloud, so how we will be migrating them. In the meantime, we were calculating the business case, we're doing all sorts of compliance checks, and we're planning what types of trainings we need to do in parallel to be able to deliver this. Once the assessment was finished, we're going into the actual migration, which was split into a set of sprints, where we're tackling individual applications, ending with a cutover and hypercare phase. Here, already in that phase, we were partially decommissioning parts of the infrastructure to get the benefits that we were counting for. In both of those phases, we were heavily working on our overall cloud setup. So we worked a lot on the networking, on the hardening, on the processes that we have supporting our accounts and how we manage them. But we also worked on our operating model. We did a lot of trainings for the people. We adjusted org structures and responsibilities to be able to do it. So as you can hear, it was a big scale. We needed big capacity and big set of capabilities. Therefore, we partnered with Hitachi Digital Services to get that injection of capability and capacity. But also, I need to say, big shout out to the team who's partially here, who was co-running this transformation with me from both RBI and Hitachi Digital Services.
Thanks so much for that, Mihail. But what's interesting is you said you did a business case and we were doing the assessment, and I was an intimate part of the journey. But then, can you talk to us a little bit about the business case versus the benefits that you're starting to see as you started migrating your application and you moved from phase 1 to phase 2?
Sure. So we try to not to position the cloud transformation as a cost reduction exercise. We did all sorts of calculations, business cases, but it was very important to us that we position it as a modernization. It's not a restructuring transformation. So we counted and we aimed to achieve all the benefits cloud has to offer, starting with a shorter time to market due to reuse of ready solutions, going through the better agility with adjusted operating model. We think that the cloud and agile is like a match made in heaven. We were aiming for a lot of innovations with build fast, fail fast approach, and we achieved a lot of it. On top of that, we had a lot of, let's say, byproducts. We got much more resilient. We have a lot of transparency and a lot of new data that now we can use to monitor our workloads. We also, because we made this huge step and this huge signal to the market, it also helped us with the recruitment of the talents, because, and it's not so obvious for being a banking group in the CE region, that we were perceived as this sexy employer. Yeah, we were doing clouds and a lot of it, and this was very well perceived. So generally, we got to a stage in which, being a very heterogeneous group that we were able to standardize across of our markets both the infrastructure layer and the platform layer to help us with achieving the economies of scale, but also fostering better cooperation between the countries.
Fantastic. And I think the key takeaway from what you said, and I believe this is not just you, a few other customers have told us, is cloud is not a cost optimization exercise. It's more about the value that you generate, the engineering pedigree that you create within your organizations, and the time to market that you can create as you move into a DevOps process.
But the cost optimizations are possible, and we proved that. Just don't make it your goal, because then you're going to make a lot of wrong decisions along the way.
Don't disagree with that. Nevertheless, from that, right, that's an interesting thing. But I do want to leave you with one last question before I move over to our fantastic partner here. How are you thinking about the future of this? Because this is not a one and done exercise in my mind. It's a continuous evolution. So as you go through this journey, and with a lot of these technology advancements that's coming in, how are you thinking about applying new technologies, especially AI, into your modernization and management of cloud workloads?
Mm-hmm. So During the journey, we got a lot of new data in. I was mentioning the transparency. We opened up a lot of systems. So we got a vast set of new data during the process. But I would say our use of AI and Gen AI so far during the migration is very much showing the progress we were making. And I will explain that in a second. Meaning, we had AI and Gen AI models that we were using during the transformation. When the workloads were transformed, we were using them to run certain workloads. But having built in the capabilities, we are now also able to innovate using these new sets of capabilities. So starting from the transformation, we were using a lot of tools helping us to analyze the code complexity for the refactoring. We are also one of the 100 enterprises globally with an early access to Copilot, and we used it also quite heavily to generate the code for the applications being migrated. While already on the run phase, we used a tool to help us with the security scanning. So how secure are the applications that we are running on the cloud? We changed the process also of how we are using this because we did what we call a shift left. So no longer we were scanning the applications while they are already on the cloud, but we were scanning them on the pre-deployed stage so that we know what types of applications, are we migrating applications to any vulnerabilities, or do we need to fix something in before we migrate. And we are also in the process of selecting our FinOps tools, which also use heavily the AI solutions in there. And all this capability that we built help us later on to innovate. And we are recently just developed a chatbot based on Gen AI to help to interact with our customers. But this is what we've done during the transformation. I think what's more interesting is what's ahead of us. Yeah, and ahead of us. And I was yesterday on a very good session with Ion Stoica from UC Berkeley and Databricks. And he was mentioning that the use cases of AI successful use case of AI will need to meet 3 criteria. They need to be able to generate the result easier than the human beings. They need to be able to generate the results in a way that they're easy to verify their correctness. And looking at this, there are multiple use cases we can apply it to. And in our generally strategy with an AI and Gen AI, there are 3 pillars of it. And I would start with the one that's closest to our heart, that we work with it the closest, being how to increase our internal efficiency and our internal processes. And of course, we believe a lot in the AI use in DevOps for the code generation, for the testing, for the legacy code conversion. But there is a lot of cases, and this is super important to us, related to observability, related to FinOps. We have recently also partnering with Hitachi set up what we call Raiffeisen Application Reliability Center, which is basically a set of processes and tooling help to manage the workloads that we have migrated using AI and Gen AI solutions from the perspective of vulnerability, security, financial effectiveness, and so on and so forth. And there is a vast number of cases there. The 2 other pillars that we have are related to the customer-facing applications, so we believe there is a lot of potential there. And the last pillar is to how effectively we are operating. And this includes the use of Amazon Q, for example, to generate the templates of the documents, prepare summaries, but it's also related with a better distribution of knowledge. So a lot of use cases.
I know. And I think we don't want to make this a Gen AI use case conversation. Nevertheless, I think there is no topic without Gen AI today. With that, thank you so much, Michael. But over to you, Andrea. From an AWS lens and looking at a customer and a partner like us, how are you thinking AWS is enabling us, delivering to the promise of cloud operations and easing cloud operations at a cost-optimal way?
Hopefully you can hear me. So, can you hear me? Okay, I will take this one. Can you hear me? Fantastic. So first, while I was listening to Michael, for me it was ear to my music. Is exactly how AWS think about your problem. Look, we started this presentation with that comics. Why it's so hard? Do you see that Formula One car? You are in a situation that you're trying to take a race car, and while you're racing, you're trying to change the engine, you're trying to change the wheels, and probably also the driver. Does it make sense? So to answer to your question, I would like first to tell you what is the advantage of partnering with AWS and the AWS Partner Network. You are not alone. We saw hundreds of times exactly what Michael was saying. And we take all this information, all the lessons that we learned, and guess what? We distill it in what we call a well-architected framework. This is literally an operational guide and also a set of benchmark that can achieve the operational excellence. We also extended, by the way, if you are curious, I invite you to read, we extended under the lens of the AI. Now we are talking about how generative AI, how AI can help you. Michael also said another very interesting aspect. Here it's not a net migration from workload from premises to the cloud. You are entering to being a strategic asset for your company to innovate. Well, when you think about AWS, you have several layers that I would like to introduce you. First, the infrastructure. Michael was explaining that while they were doing this migration, they had to consider, guess what? Cost. Probably heard about this cost, right? Security, compliance, and then you need to serve new need of your customer. All of that as an answer. We learned from our customers in the 25 years that we experimented. We started to experiment with AI, and guess what? The infrastructure itself provides you a lot of tools fueled by the AI to solve your problem. We were discussing about cost and operational excellence and performance. Guess what? There is a tool that is constantly, you have just to enable, that is constantly checking if money can be saved, changing the configuration, or if there are security risks, or if there is the need to take care of your workload because it's not fault tolerance. All of these, and I invite you to investigate in what is called the services like inspector, like a security guard, like trusted advisor. All of these is the benefit of using the technology of AWS. If you heard, Michael had another problem now in the C-suite. They're asking, now how do we take advantage of this generative AI? How we move forward with this fascinating technology? So you have two order of problems. You have to take workloads that are incredibly demanding in terms of infrastructure. And while you do that, there is a huge demand worldwide of the silicon. Not sure if there are geeks here, I think so, that are trying to order the GPUs or trying to secure for your workload the GPU. It's an hard job. Partnering with AWS, immediately you get access in minutes to thousands of GPUs that can be started and stopped, for example, for high-demand training job. So first layer, the infrastructure. Second layer, the capability that we offer in the infrastructure to support the generative AI. Finally, the application layer. I don't know if you are excited, as I am, to what we announced, Amazon Q, all the Bedrock new models, the capability of SageMaker. You have now the freedom and the capability of starting to adopt generative AI application like Amazon Q, not in days, not in weeks, but in hours. You are now capable of creating a chatbot with all your expertise, and maybe it knows also your code base, Amazon Q, in a matter of minutes. That's the perspective that I would like to bring you to the customer, and I'm looking forward what you're going to do with all this fascinating technology.
Thank you, Andrea, and I think we're coming to the end of the session. But again, thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your journey with us. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing the roadmap and the Amazon's help for customers like Raiffeisen to run workloads better. Hope the team here learned something from the transformation from one of our customers, And if you have more questions, more details, we can dive deep on the technology, on the AI, whatever we were doing. We are at booth 1532, right down this hallway. Please feel free to stop by and ask us anything you want. Thank you so much for spending this evening with us.
Thank you.
Thank you indeed.